Good evening. Welcome to Eretz Yisrael. I'm Avraham Shira. We've got a very interesting little thing I opened to on Shabbat in the Zohar Kadosh, Parshat Vayikra. This week's Parsha just happens to pop out of nowhere. It tells us a deep secret in 4 or 5 lines about the entire relationship between heaven and earth, and even in politics. So listen to what the Zohar says, and you'll judge for yourself. I'm very pleased to see this because I'm always asking myself, there's a right, there's a left. Why does nobody run on the center? It's no good to be the center. And we know that the reason that you don't have any real strong candidates in most of these democracies around the world called the center party, because the center means something else. It means I don't treat you as opposition. You see, when you're right, I have opposition. I know who I'm against. And the left says, I know who I'm against, the right. As the opposition creates sparks, and sparks creates the meat, let's call it the electricity of controversy. And that's attractive to people. And so politics, as someone said, politics is the entertainment department of the the military industrial complex. We'll throw in a little medical too, big pharma, et cetera, et cetera. But really, you see that politics is about attracting attention. And the Torah says, no, don't go for attention. Go for the truth. Go for the Zohar. Go for your truth. Go for the center column of life. Because that's Eitz Chaim Hi L'Machazikim Ba. And when we go right or left, there's always going to end up in some exaggeration. So, but remember one more principle, and we'll begin the Zohar. It's Masha Lamala Yesh Lamata. Whatever there is above, there's going to be below. What Ma Lamata Liye Lamala. And what is down here is going to be above. So when we read Zohar, we're always reading about something above. And when we read the newspaper, we're reading about something below. But they're always connected. Now we have a verse that if the anointed Kohen, which is a very high level, the oil of anointing that was used for prophets and kings is also placed on the king, the Kohen Gadol who was anointed. And if he sins, there's a whole series of things that have to happen. But the Zohar is going to play on this verse. Rabbi Yitzhak patach Zohar Avraham liYitzhak u'liYisrael avadecha. A seemingly innocent verse. It says, remember. The prayer is Zohar Avraham, remembered for Avraham, for Yitzhak, and to Yisrael. Now the and here is where all the emphasis is going to be on the interpretation. Listen closely. Avadecha, because Ze apasuk kashe. Kach haya tzarich lichtov. And so this is one of the things that the rabbis do in the Zohar. They find a little change that they find is appropriate in the grammar or in the writing, and that little change becomes the whole drasha in the worlds above. How? Well, we know that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob represent the 3 sphirot, the 3 supernal realms called Chesed, Gevurah, and Tiferet, the 3 powers of the soul in man that correspond to the right arm, the left arm, and the heart, the torso. And these are cosmic forces that are not bound by a human being, but rather they make up the quasi-personality that God created, from which we would be created. See, God is beyond personality. He's the absolute of everything and every trait. But he created boundaries, filters of reality through which we can have a relationship with him. And those are the 10 powers of the human soul. And so Abraham represents kindness. Yitzhak represents strength or might or resistance. And Jacob, Yisrael, in his perfected form, represents Tiferet or truth, beauty, and balance. Okay, so what does Rabbi Yitzhak find here? He says, Zek v'su kashe, kach haya tzarich lo lichtov, Zohar Avraham, u'liYitzhak, u'liYisrael. The verse should have been written without the Vav, it was written with a Lamed in front of Yitzhak. Avraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. And Rabbi Yitzhak, the student of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, he says it should have been written Lichtov Zohar Avraham Yitzhak. He wants that extra Vav. What is that extra Vav going to do for us? It's a little letter Vav. It's an and. But we know that the letters of the Torah, these verses that were spoken by God, were spoken with infinite wisdom, and they were meant to be doresh. They were meant to be argued and explained and extrapolated and expressed throughout the generations, with new insights in every generation. So this is a new insight from 2,000 years ago. He said that that we needed an extra Vav to create continuity, because they're always looking for continuity in a verse, or even a pattern of grammar. Zachor le Avraham, le Yitzhak, u le Yaakov is the way it was written. And he says, no, it should have been written Zachor le Avraham, u le Yitzhak. Binding Yitzhak and Avraham together, the first two patriarchs, the first Avraham and his son Yitzhak. Rabbi Yitzhak wants those two to be together. Why? And then the Vav comes along to separate Jacob, Yisrael, from the father and son. The grandson, he's down here after the first two. What does that represent for us? Mahu Yitzhak, liYitzhak elakach shaninu. We have already learned b'kol makom, small nichlal biyamin. In every place, the left side, the left hand, is included in the right hand. See, Yitzhak is the son of Avraham. Avraham is the right side of the tree of life. He is the giver. Yitzhak is the left side of the tree of life. He is the receiver. He's the son. He receives from his father. Avraham is the father. He gives to his son. They're included in each other, but we treat it as if Yitzhak, this side, is included in the father. The Zohar says elsewhere that the thigh of the father is his son. Why the thigh, your leg? Because the thigh is the extension of the father, and the extension of a father is the next generation, represented by the thigh extending deeper and further into the world. And representing also the idea of travel, of movement throughout the generations. So here we have it. We have learned that whenever we see the left side small, you might have heard the word smolanim, right? Nichla biyamin, that the left is included in the right. And in all the days, now in Zohar, days mean measurements. Measurements of time, measurements of psychic space. And it's not 24 hours whatsoever. We know 1,000 human years is one day to God. So if you do the numbers, you'll see that, that this creation is about 13 billion years old. But I don't want to ruffle anybody's traditional feathers, right? The math is the math. Anyways. וזה הימין נתקן לעולמים להכליל בו עצמו. And this, the right side, is fixed forever by including the left with it. There is no such thing as an independent right side without including the left with it. And there's no such thing as the left side without including the right with it. Just like father and son. They love each other, they respect each other, they honor each other. They keep the Torah together. They are bound. Whether they like it or not. And of course they like it. Because if you have a good son and a good father, well, there's nothing to lose over here. So but the idea is here that the right side, chesed, the idea of giving, has to have a receiver to receive its completion. And the left side, that needs to have something to receive from, to receive its perfection and completion. And so Yitzhak and Avraham are written in this verse, LeYitzhak u LeAvraham. Together we want them, And va'alked lo hichilek, and therefore there's no distinction. Kedei lachlil oto be'Avraham, in order that the left Yitzhak will be included in the right Avraham. There is no distinction being made that they are bound together. Umishum kach, and because of this, la'Avraham leYitzhak chlal, to Yitzhak and Avraham together, it's a general inclusion, achad, where those two are made one. Aval liyisrael, and an extra vav and lamed together. Le Yisrael, and to Yisrael, which is the whole nation, together as one. Shahare b'shneihim ochez otam b'kanafav, because only Yisrael has the power to grasp them. The Zohar says beautifully and poetically, with his wings. That Jacob has this power. I need a bigger camera. My wings are spreading, right? And Jacob has his power, Yisrael. When he's Yisrael, it's the inside of the heart. Jacob's the outside of the heart in Kabbalah. And so Yisrael is grasping the right and the left and bringing them together in the center. In the center is we have beauty, we have balance, we have peace, we have truth. And you cannot have truth if you don't include the right and the left as one. Now, why doesn't that work in politics? Because I have to stand out or no one will vote for me. I got to make noise. And this is the defect in this free political system where everybody can just run for office, and any guy that has the most money or the most noise or makes the most noise can be elected as a leader of Am Yisrael. But that's not the Torah way. The Torah way is that the great court in Jerusalem elects the leaders, and the common people don't vote in those elections. Now, of course, it's not like it was. Back in the day, there were extremely educated, genius people, and then there were very, very humble, everyday people who, if they were lucky, they learned to read and write. And don't even mention women, because women weren't even thought of for education until about 150 years ago. So that travesty is fortunately being fixed. But the whole idea here is that you have to be on a certain level to recognize who a good leader is. And the idea that everybody votes, well, that's all very good. But when everybody votes, the minute I don't like what they're voting, I tell the labor union to strike, and I tell the bus drivers to strike. And next thing, all my friends strike, and the country is being strangled. What's that about? Is that democracy? If the AFL-CIO and the longshoremen in the United States suddenly decided to go with one party and strike, they close down the docks, they close down the airport, they close down just like they're doing here. That's not called democracy, my friends. Write it down. That's not democracy. If a union can be politicized as a weapon to close down the country, to force people to go against what they feel is right, people that were elected by the majority, something's wrong with the system. And this is why Orthodox Jews are always yearning for something bigger and better, because we have in our books an example of the way it was supposed to work. I'm not saying it was without flaws. Of course, everything a human being touches is prone to flaw. But the point is that when you have a system like the ancient one of courts, and the way that they have to go through rigorous testing, and they have to have years of experience before they can even be considered to sit on a bench and judge a fellow Jew, you see that there's a moderation that comes with a white beard. It helps. It opens up the heart, and the right includes the small, and the small is included in the right, and the conservative and the liberal policies all kind of like mixed together into what we call the center, the Vav in God's name, the Tiferet, the beauty and the balance of the heart. And this is why we are who we are. We're a special people. We're chosen for this. But right now the world is in upheaval, and so is Am Yisrael, because of a few decisions that are not fully understood, I think, by most of the people. But we have to pray, and we have to accept that whatever happens, there should be no bloodshed, God willing. There should be no insult, no belittling behavior. Because, demeaning behavior belittles both people. And that's not what it's about at all. So I thought it was rather appropriate that this little Zohar has came across to us to share tonight. And we're going to continue our daily classes in Rabbi Nachman on Patreon. And that will, we've got a lot of work left. We've been at it 3.5 years, and you can support us there on Patreon. And you can pick any tier you want of membership. And if you want to talk to me every week, we can do that too. But the glory of the Torah is with us, and that's what we're here to bring to the world. And then God will do the rest. All the best. See you soon.